All right, so without any further ado, tonight's talk is about protecting yourself and others. Let's talk about SRI. Real quick, my name is Justin Dorfman. I work at a company called Sticker Mule. I do developer relations. I'm on Bootstrap's core infrastructure team managing the CDN. I'm on Mozilla's open source support program, also known as MOS, where we issue grants to open source projects. And I've been an SRI advocate since 2015. This is my first tweet, my first blog post, and my second blog post. May 24th, 2013 is a day that my life was changed forever. It was a day I learned that JavaScript can actually be used as a weapon. I got this tweet, and I'll be honest, I looked into it, but I saw the words false positive. Ooh. On vacation, I got this tweet, and I knew I was in trouble. See, this wasn't affecting thousands of people. This was affecting hundreds of thousands of people. So after the blog post, after the postmortem was written, I was on a mission to find a way to bring trust and integrity back to public CDNs. Well, at least my public CDN. I'm a visual learner. I've always been a visual learner. So in my opinion, there's no better way to define integrity than this graphic. Now, Subresource Integrity enables browsers to verify that files have been delivered without any unexpected manipulation. And for the visual learners like myself, that's what that looks like. As you'll see, there is an integrity attribute with a SHA-2 hash as the value, and a cross-origin attribute with the value of anonymous for cross-origin resource sharing, also known as CORS. Now, these can be placed safely in any script or link elements, whether the browser supports it or not. If the browser doesn't support it, it will simply ignore the attributes and the values. So let's continue with some visualization. So let's take a look with SRI. So let's take this hypothetical malware and inject it into a public CDN, into a JS file on a public CDN. Now with SRI enabled, Firefox, Safari Tech Preview 11.1, and Chrome will successfully block the malware from executing. Now, let's take a look without SRI. Let's take this other hypothetical malware, inject it into a JavaScript file on a host on a public CDN, and with SRI disabled, you can get a JavaScript DDoS attack that can take down a giant like GitHub. I don't know if anyone remembers, but back in March of 2015, GitHub was down intermittently for more than 5 days. The site and service was pretty much unusable. Malicious JavaScript can and will do that. So they say a people without knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots. Well, Marcus Garvey said that. March 26, 2005, a man by the name of Jarvis Markham, who so happens to lead the Mozilla open source support program, but it's another story, wrote a blog post called Link Fingerprints. And what Link Fingerprints is basically the foundation for Subresource Integrity. A year later, on April 28th of 2006, a user by the name of Wolf the Saxon asked, what would you think of a hash attribute on the Mozilla Zine forum? He or she says it was inspired by a Link Fingerprints blog post that he read. In November 17, 2006, a developer by the name of Michel Fortin mentioned link hashes on a WhatWG mailing list. For those who don't know what the WhatWG is, it's the Web Hypertext Application Technology Working Group. Oops. 10 days later, he creates a wiki page on link hashes on WhatWG's wiki. And then on July 9th, Gervais releases version 0.6 of his spec for the link fingerprint spec. And last but not least, in November 20th, 2013, the last time WhatWG's wiki was updated. So after 8 years, 7 months, and 26 days, no standards came of these efforts. But that's okay, because 7 weeks later, the W3C Web Application Security Working Group came in with some muscle. Inspired by link fingerprints and link hashes, Engineers from Dropbox, Mozilla, and Google, and a few others came together to create a whole new standard called Subresource Integrity, or SRI for short. January 8th, 2014, discussions start on W3C's GitHub. 70 days later, they had a first public working draft up. 600 days later till Chrome support. 637 days later till the final public working draft. 676 days later to the candidate recommendation. 700 days later to the Firefox support. And 2 years, 5 months, 16 days later, finally, a W3C recommendation. Now, counting everything, that's over 11 years. But my grandfather always said, anything worth anything takes time and sacrifice. Now, when I was talking about working drafts and candidate recommendations, this is the process that all W3 standards have to go through before coming a recommendation. As you can see, it's quite a process. But now that we have a recommendation, let's look into support. Files that are supported as of now are CSS and JavaScript. They get a happy banana. The HTML, image, and Flash, and video, they do not have support right now. I don't know if they'll ever get support, but right now, we got to focus on what we do have support for, and that's CSS and JavaScript. Some of you might be saying, well, what does CSS have to do with this? I don't understand. Well, an article written 2 months ago on the Register discussed using remote resources such as remote CSS is exploitable. This was from Matthew Gardner, who's a 15-year veteran in the cybersecurity game. He's probably seen everything. And while CSS exploits are rare, it is possible. And that is why they're supported in the standard. Desktop support is decent. For those who are wondering why there's a red X and a green check mark, let me underneath Safari and Edge, let me explain. So Safari and Edge have preview versions that are ready. Their stable versions do not have support yet. I asked my buddy Sean Larkin, who is on the core team of Webpack, and he just started at Microsoft, and I asked him, and he's program manager on Edge Dev Tools, I asked him when is SRI coming to Edge, and he said he's on it. And I trust him because he's pretty good with his word. What's that?
Without many exclamation points.
Exactly. Without any exclamation points, you got to be on it. So we'll see. Mobile support. If you have Android, you're good. You're pretty much taken care of. Now, Safari on iOS is the same as desktop. Supposedly it works in preview. I don't have iOS, so I couldn't test. But you might be thinking, well, I use Chrome, so it really doesn't matter. Sorry. Apple iOS App Store guideline states that apps that browse the web must use iOS WebKit framework and WebKit JavaScript. So what does that mean? That means basically all iOS browsers are just Safari. Kind of. So despite all the user agent support, adoption is pretty pitiful. 93 out of the top 10,000 sites, or in other words, less than 1%, are using the standard. But that's why we're here today. We're going to learn how to create hashes. SRI supports the secure hashing algorithm 2, also known as SHA-2. The variants that are supported are 256, 384, and 512. MD5 and SHA-1 were proposed for link hashes and link fingerprints back in the day, but they are now considered unsafe. They are considered unsafe because they are vulnerable to collision attacks, which we'll go over in a little bit. Now, you might be asking, what variation do I use? There's so many options. Now, not to add another conflicting opinion to the sea of conflicting opinions on the internet, I really don't think it matters whether you use SHA-256, 384, or 512. Let's just put it this way. So Google uses a SHA-256 signature algorithm for their SSL certs, as most sites on the internet use today. The chances of a 256 hash collision is, and for those who don't know what a hash collision is, let's say you have file A and file B. They're completely different files, but they have the same hash. That is what a collision is. So the chance of that happening for SHA-256 is 128 times 18.4 quintillion. That's 17 digits after the 4. Let's put this in perspective. There's estimated 7.5 quintillion grains of sand on Earth. W3C specs at the time of this writing, which was in 2016. SHA-384 is a good baseline. Again, in the end, it's up to you what variant you use. How do we create hashes? So Bash and OpenSSL, you can use any of these one-liners and create a SHA-384, or sorry, a SHA-2 hash for sub-resource integrity. On Bootstrap, getbootstrap.com, we use a function and alias that we can then put into a YAML file and call it in different spots, like the footer of getbootstrap.com. As you can see right there, there's an integrity hash right in there, ready to go. For those who want to get started without a command line interface, well, you're in luck, because srihash.org has a SHA-384 generator that will, you put in any URL ending in .css and .javascript, and you get the code ready to go to put into your code. Below it is the report URI hash tool generator, which does all three, 256, 384, and 512. And that is completely fine as long as they're delimited by a space. The browser will then choose the most collision resistant, or in other words, the strongest hash in the list. So if 512 is in the list, you shouldn't have the other ones in there, but you do your thing. If you use NPM or Yarn and you want to put SRI in your build process, Grunt, Webpack, Gulp, Broccoli, Handlebars all have plugins. It's probably safe to assume that most of us here use Webpack, so the Webpack Subresource Integrity plugin is easy to configure. It has great docs. It's up to date. It's support for code splitting, and it's compatible with Webpack versions 1, 2, and 3. If you use public CDNs like JS.la, they have an option for generating a SHA-256. Same with CDN.js, as well as jQuery. Actually, this was fun. I got to work with the jQuery team on this. Every link on code.jquery.com opens up in this beautiful modal the code that you need to copy, as well as a description of what the cross-origin and integrity attributes are. Isn't that sweet? bootstrapcdn.com. You can click to copy HTML, Pug, or HAML. You're good to go there. Yes, so Google hosted libraries. Now, builtwith.com says that 11.6 million, or 3.1% of all active sites, are using Google hosted libraries. And it's kind of weird that one of the sponsors of SRI doesn't even promote it on the very thing that they created, Google hosted libraries. So this would probably be why adoption is so low. The top 10,000 sites, 35% of them use Google hosted libraries. So I reached out to this guy named Artur, who does web security moonshots at Google. And I asked him, hey, is it possible? And he said, it could work. So I'm not making a joke. Everyone pull out their phones, pull out their phones, pull out their phones. I'm not joking, pull out your phones. If you have the latest version of iOS, it will work. And I want you to scan this QR code in the corner, and we're going to tell Google that we want SRI on Google hosted libraries. So don't worry, I'm gonna wait. Scan the QR code, yes.
What do you want us to do? Just like the tweet or something?
Yes, exactly. You're going to retweet it, and then the revolution's going to start, the SRI revolution. No. Don't follow me. Don't follow me. Follow me.
I'm following you right now.
Yeah, okay, great.
You know how Twitter works.
As long as I got one follower out of it, it's all good. But seriously, we'll go over we'll get there. Okay, so everyone did it, right? I see one guy still doing it. Good. Dinner was pretty good, though. Oh, my God. Good? Awesome. Okay. Slides will be online in a bit. So, yeah, here's a warning. Unless you want to get woken up at 3 a.m., do not add integrity attributes to any of the following services or services like it, because their code changes frequently. In fact, it's in their terms of service. They don't need to alert you. So web fonts won't load, ads will not display, and your marketing team will hate you. Trust me, I know this. So let's wrap it up, shall we? Public CDNs are great, but you must use them with protection. CSS is exploitable. While it's rare, it can happen. iOS browsers are basically just Safari. You choose the variant that works for you. If you're a 256 person, then you choose 256. Just think of grains of sand when you do it. There's many ways to create hashes, so there's absolutely no excuses. Last but not least, tell at Google Devs you want SRI on Google hosted libraries. Thank you so much. That's all the time I have left. I didn't finish. I want to give a big thanks to Jacob and the js.la crew. Stand up if you're an organizer of js.la, or put your hands up. Awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I also want to thank Kirsten Liu for her help with this talk. Slides will be on Twitter in about 20 minutes. Jobs, dev.to/stickermule. And if you need a sponsor for your meetup, your conference, or your open source project, holla at your boy, jdorfman@stickermule.com. Peace. Yeah.
You have time for questions?
For you, I have time for anything.
All right. Well, I'm not going to ask them. I'm pretty sure we have some people who want to ask some questions. So. Are we going to run this mic?
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. I think you covered the solution really well. I didn't quite catch what is the specific exploit that we're trying to protect against. Maybe can you link to an article or something that we can read on, or read more in depth on this?
Absolutely. I can definitely do that. I'll tell you a quick story of go a little more into that story if you want, of the beginning, of the origin of how this happened, or it's up to you. Good? Okay. So when I was going on vacation and I got this call, it was really, really bad because what they did was they hacked our CDN and changed the origin URL to a server with all the same files except the very popular ones that was injected with JavaScript that then redirected clients or user agents that had IE7 to download a Java program that then used their computer to turn in a zombie. So it was really, really bad, and the way it could have been avoided was if SRI was around at the time and people had it installed, is that the browser would have stopped it and said, no, the integrity is not there. The integrity has been broken. So no, it's not gonna.
If we're on IE7, how would that help?
Well, so Bootstrap CDN does 66 billion requests a month. So there are it's a very diverse set of user agents. While we're all here using evergreen browsers, there are tons of people in other parts of the world that are still running IE7. But also that was 3 years ago, so. But still, yeah. Yes?
And another vulnerability this will help against is, let's say your site, their cookies are not used secure cookies only, and somebody was able to inject some JavaScript into your page. They can actually then scrape all of your authentication cookies, essentially taking all your authentication for that site and send it to wherever they wanted. So they could essentially steal your identity for that site or your login for that site. But I do have a question as well.
Sure.
So I kind of have a love-hate relationship with SRI.
Yes.
Because it's caused me some problems as well.
Sure.
In terms of locally hosted libraries, like you said, like Webpack and whatever, they have all these shards. Do we need to put those on for our local files, or is that safe since we're controlling the server?
The reason SRI was created was to protect from public CDNs, but I find there's no reason why not, if it's automated, to have SRI installed in your build system or your build process, because the more security, the better. Because let's say even your application's using a CDN, your private CDN, there's still people that can hack your credentials and inject malware into it. And if your application is popular, you're absolutely a target. If you're if you have 5 users, probably not. Probably not worth it. But I really do believe that it is it should be kind of like the norm. I mean, I don't know.
I'm convinced.
Yeah, I'm a little biased, so I mean.
I'm convinced.
Okay, thanks, man.
I'm ready to get back on.
Cool.
All right, give a round of applause, Justin.